Hello, summoners. Suntide here. Recently been playing a lot of Fire Emblem Heroes and been building up a lot of units that don't have a lot of unique, what we call perf weapons. So I've been looking a lot into the inheritable weapons. Been looking around trying to find lists of which ones are good. And once again, unfortunately, it looks like no one else has actually made a decent list of all of them. So I did that. I went through the terrible fandom wiki, cursive fandom, why must you ruin everything? Um, but then I created a spreadsheet. Editing sound out here. It's not a spreadsheet, it's an infographic. It's still in the description, and on screen will show segments of that infographic, and it'll just show who has what skill, what weapon, and what sort of rarity they come at. So yeah. And while I was looking through them, I thought I'd just make my own list of which ones I actually thought were good and which ones weren't. And that's what we have here. So I created this thing with all of the different skill families of proof weapons. There's a lot of them. I don't quite know how many there are. And I thought I'd rate them. And basically we have 5 tiers here, as is tradition, I think. And the way I thought I'd do this is that basically everything on A tier and above will be uh, these ones are the ones that are good. They're better than early proofs. Better than a lot of the early weapons that they actually released. The S ones are the ones that are basically the best inheritable weapons. Weapons, can't type. And then everything else will be everything else. They will be the ones that are completely useless, in quotation marks. Of course, they aren't going to be completely useless, but you're never really going to have use for them. They aren't useless, but they aren't useful either. C are the ones that are generally outclassed, whereas in the B ones, it'll be the ones that have a niche. Useful. Yep. Or the ones that are good for a budget unit you're trying to build. I think that when I was thinking about this, the easiest one I could think of would be, for example, the brave weapons. So here's Barst. Yes, Barst. And we're going to put Barst into the sort of A tier, where, early on a lot of people would give Crom or Alphonse a brave sword, just because the brave sword is really good. And don't forget all of the brave bow lins everyone had around. These are the ones that they're better than a lot of proofs, but they're sort of the benchmark. So let's go through them. Let's go through all of these. So here we have Soleil with the fire sweep sword and all the fire sweep weapons in general. And with this, basically we have fire sweep sword, lance, axe, and a bow. Oddly enough, the fire sweep sword, lances, and axes have more damage than most inheritable weapons, whereas the fire sweep bow is weaker than most inheritable bows, which is a bit odd. I guess it's just because, this is really good for ranged units. And here, I guess I'd put this in the sort of B tier, in the sort of A tier as well. They're good. They aren't going to completely break your unit because you can't counterattack. Basically, you can attack without getting countered, but you can't counter the enemy. Is it better or worse than brave weapons? In general, I'd say it's better, because a lot of the units who want to use fire sweep are generally pretty fast. Fire sweep has significantly more damage than brave weapons, and they're generally, if you're using a glass cannon, going to double the unit anyway and hopefully kill them. So yeah, that'll go there. Next up, we have this New Year's Corinne, representing all of the drive skills. So I believe in this new year we had 2 sets of drive skills, one for the Hoshiden and one for the Norians. The Hoshidans gave attack and speed +1 in a 2-tile radius, whereas the other ones gave defense and res +2. Obviously, these are really, really low stats. So yeah, pretty bad. Next up, we have Marissa with the Wodao, and those sort of skills that increase your damage when your special triggers. So we have the Wodao, we have Shigure's Harmonic Lance, we have the axes, which includes the Giant Spoon from Spring Alphonse, and the Wogun from Libra. We also have bows, the short bow, and we have two daggers, the Lethal Carrot and the Barb Shuriken. I like these, but they're bad, to be honest. So it's going to go straight into this outclassed area. Better than Corinne by far, but it's still not very good. The reason why is it's basically, 10 damage when it activates. Compare this to a lot of the other proofs, which just give you, like, say, 5 attack, for example. Now, you're very unlikely to actually land your special every single attack. Let's say you land them in half attacks, you basically get 5 attack. A lot of proofs give 5 attack plus something else. So unfortunately, it's not that useful as much as I like it. So yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. Next up, we have Eli Wood. Eli Wood has the Casablanca, and this gives you basically double ranged. It neutralizes foes' bonuses if they are ranged, and we have Valentine Roy, Valentine Lin, and Valentine Lilina, having the lance, the bow, the blue tome, and the green tome. This isn't bad. Nullifying bonuses isn't bad, but there are a lot of other ways you can nullify bonuses, and generally it's just, again, it's outclassed. There are a lot of proofs that also nullify bonuses. So again, down here, it's good defensively, but it's not going to be that good overall. Next up, we have F. Morgan with Blar Serpent, and all of those. So we have the 3 Serpent skills, Blar Serpent, Rotter Serpent, and Grom Serpent. And we also have the Guard Bow, which you can get from Norn or Setsuna. So we actually have a Serpent that's a bow. Yes. All up, I'm going to think that this is not terrible. The extra bit of defense is actually quite nice. And this actually gives it a pretty decent use. You're going to swing 6 damage against a ranged unit. So yeah, I put that as pretty useful. It's not bad. Next up, we have Nidian Brytolinion, which gives joint hone speed. It's very similar to the Bridal Eli Wood, which gives joint hone attack. Pretty good skill. Not too useful. You could do something like give it to an ally unit that has, say, if you had, say, an axe armor unit, you could give the axe armor unit joint hone speed normally. Give him give him Marth's axe, the Ardent Sacrifice, I believe it's not Ardent Sacrifice. Ardent Service, which gives joint hone attack. So you can have joint hone attack on the weapon, give him, say, hone speed on the S slot, or say something else with boost speed, and then give fortified defense, and then you can basically omni boost your entire team with 1 unit. So it's not bad, but it's not the best either. I think this is pretty plainly in the sort of B tier. Useful, but it's not the best. Next up, we have Legault, and Legault's sort of similar friend, the Broadleaf fan. So what they both do is that they grant bonuses to units attack equal to something about the opponent. So in the case of Legault and Tethys, you have the Cleaner, which boosts damage based on the enemy's bonuses, and Summerlina's Broadleaf boosts damage based on their penalties. The Broadleaf is definitely better than the Cleaner, but because you can actually control the Broadleaf, but they're both pretty good for dealing damage. Easy A tier. Better than Barst, better than Soleil. Well, maybe, yeah. See, all of Dagger units just aren't very good, but it's a good weapon. If any other weapon had this, I think it'll... well, Gunther has it, and she's pretty ridiculous. So yeah. Next up, Altoms. My boy Canis. Canis, we have Canis and Katarina with red, May with blue, and Bowie with green. And the Altoms boost damage depending on how many units are within within one space. I'm sorry, Canis. You're great, but it's pretty bad. I think this could really go down there just because 1 or 2 points is pretty bad. We can leave this at the bottom there because the stuff that goes in D is like actually really bad. So we'll move him, yeah, around here makes sense, I think. You get a lot of stats, it's just really hard to execute. Next up is Takumi. So Takumi gives Desperation, and along Desperation on a bow, you also have Desperation on a dagger from Summer Lindy, and you have Desperation on a blue tome from Summer Camilla. Desperation is one of the best skills in the game. Basically, it enables a whole different strategies. You can go glass cannon with it. You boost your damage so much, and it's key to a lot of the glass cannon builds. It's really bad on a weapon slot, unfortunately. So with a bow specifically, you can just use Fire Sweep Bow instead, which is basically super Desperation. And you don't really gain much from opening up your B slot from Desperation as well. Like, I guess you could use a lull or something. But, yeah. By the weapon, the B slot in Desperation is important, but so is the weapon. And no one can really use a Desperation weapon all too well. I mean, of course, like, you know, you have the perfs that do this, like, what's her name? Lysithia. But, you know, they have other things with them that just make it really, really strong. Needing to go below 75% and all of that, it's not going to be too useful. So, unfortunately, Takumi, you're going to go down here as well. Probably around here. Actually, yeah, we'll bring this down. I think Casablanca is pretty good. Next up, we have the Maogis. I'm not sure quite how to pronounce them. So these are a whole series of daggers that have effectiveness against a certain type of enemy, and also the Hardy Bearing effect, where they disable skills that change attack order. So things like Desperation or Vantage. So we have 2 that are effective against Dragon, which is Cloud Maogi from Alincia, or the Dragon Slayer from Laram. We have 2 effective against Cavalry, which is the Caltrop Dagger from Julian, or the Dusk Uchiha from Xander. And finally, you have the Sky Maogi, which you get from Ryoma, which is effective against armors. And these are pretty good if you are trying to use them against the particular enemy type. Having the Hardy Bearing as like a sort of trump card is also pretty good. It means your team's less susceptible to something like Vantage spam. So yeah, I think that counts for A rank. Yeah, probably better than Brave, but I don't think it'll be as good as Fire Sweep. You know, Fire Sweep has that effect of avoiding Vantage, for example, but is useful in more situations. So yeah, next up we have Nina with a Shining Bow. Nina and Tanya have this, where basically you increase your damage if they have higher defense than resistance. The damage increases by 7, and 7 damage under these conditions. So the conditions aren't that good. So the conditions are pretty hard to get. You need the defense to be 5 higher than the resistance, which, sure, it happens, but it's not too often. And you boost your damage by 7. Like with the Wodao, just boosting damage by this amount, it's a good amount, but it's not the most reliable. It's probably better than the Wodao, but again, it's just not high enough for it to be useful. Next up, we have Faye with Glittering Breath. Glittering Breath, and we have Witcher Cecilia with the Goody Boots. So what they do is that they're basically a sort of owl tome that only works on defense, but can work from 2 range. So you increase your defense and resistance by however many units you have within 2 spaces times 2. So not need to be adjacent, I think, makes it clearly better than the owl tome. But defense and res plus 6 is, while good, probably, you can do better. You can do better. Well, actually, I did put the Serpent Tome up there. And having that plus 6, it's nice defensively. So maybe it can go towards the bottom of B tier. Or the top of C tier. Like, let's put it on the top of C. It's good. But again, it's generally outclassed by other things that give you defenses or drop an enemy's attack. I guess it's a bit like Wu Dao in the way, just a defensive one. Next up, we have Hrid with Geishun, which effectively has a chill attack skill, reducing the attack of the enemy with the highest attack. We also have a Wagasa, which is from Leg Yarn, which is chill defense, a lance with chill defense. And finally, we have New Year's Fjorm, which has Kuburaya, which is a bow with chill speed. I guess all we're missing is an axe with chill res or something. But this is good. This is really good as a support weapon. I think this, is good for A. A lot of dancers might want Geishun, so like Olivia. And yeah. Again, it's not too useful for combat itself, and it competes with other things that a support unit might want. But it's not bad. All up, it's pretty good. I think it's better than a lot of early weapons. So yeah. Next up, we have Elise. Elise has a unique weapon, Red Hot Dubs, which is basically what Flying Nino's Prif did before the upgrade. So it boosts damage if your speed is greater than your opponent's speed by 70% difference, up to I believe plus 7 damage. So this is just like Shining Bow, but it is a bit more controllable because you can control your own speed. So I'm going to put it basically right next to it. Plus 7 damage is good, but other ways you can get damage. So we'll leave that there. Next up, we have Hinoka with Splashy Bucket. So Splashy Bucket is dragon effective, but unlike the Maogis, it doesn't have the Hardy Bearing effect. In exchange, it has basically the second half of Mystic Boost, where it removes the effect of Wrathful Staff, and also removes the adaptive damage from dragons. So this makes her pretty good for killing dragons that are going to counterattack her. Well, it makes the weapon good for that. But, it's pretty niche as well. Dragons aren't the most common enemies that exist. All up, I'd say that Cloud Maogi and that family of skills is better just because it has the Hardy Bearing niche as well. But it's not useless. We'll put that in B. Probably below Morgan, above Nidian. Next up, we have Ryoma with its Curtains. The weirdest skill name in the game. So this is Quick Impulse 2. It reduces your cooldown on turn 1 by 2. And along with its Curtains, which is a lance, we have Ouch Pouch, which is a dagger. And so this enables some things you could use, say Gale Force. Instead of Gale Force strats earlier, you can activate Glimmer and Moonbow turn 1. You can combine it with other things and get out like Ignis turn 1. So Very nice its uses. You need to build a team around it, so it's not like, eternally useful. But it can be really strong if you build something around it. So we'll put that in either A or B. Let's say B. Let's put it on top of B. It's good. It's definitely good. Now, we have Heart's Blade, Valentine's Ike, and all of these other stills, which all grant an Omni Bond. So there are 5 of them. We have the sword from Valentine Ike. We have the axe from Valentine's Grail. We have the red tome from Titania. We have the blue tome from Sorin. And we have the green tome from Mist. And all they do is if you're adjacent to an ally, you get +3 to all stats. So +3 to all stats is pretty good. But being right next to one ally is something that's a bit hard to control because you're going to put your other allies at risk, and it basically makes it more of an enemy phase skill. But, the stats are good. It's going to be sort of in this B to C tier. Above or below Nidian and her joint hones? Let's say below, just because it's really hard to keep that area up, just keep that range up, and support skills are generally really, really good. Next up, we have Silas. So Silas has the Slaying Spear, which is the upgraded weapons that defeat armor units. So there are a lot of units that have, a lot of weapons that have these armor units, and I think this is a clear use for the A tier. It's really good if you're fighting armor units, and armor units are generally huge balls of stats that boost each other up. So being able to just say no to those stats with the Armor Smasher is a good thing. Where exactly? Let's say around here. Yeah, around here. I think braver weapons are a bit better. Brave weapons are classically better. Maybe right now the anti-armors are better just because, armors are getting stronger, bonuses are getting stronger, and a lot more ubiquitous. But I guess classically the brave weapons have been a bit stronger, so we'll leave that there for now. Armors are annoying. It lets you beat annoying units. Can't really say much else. Next, we have Spring Pala with her Pegasus Carrot, another unique dagger. The daggers get a lot of unique weapons. And so this one has effectiveness against armored foes, but unlike the Malgis, this one's effect is that it neutralizes effects that prevents units follow-up attacks during combat if she has weapon triangle advantage. So that is really specific. Basically, if they have a wary fighter or something, you're going to stop wary fighter. And that's all it does. So clearly this is a lot worse than the Malgis. One of the Malgis, which was, let me go through my list. The Sky Malgi from Summer Ryoma has Hardy Bearing, and Hardy Bearing is generally going to be better than conditionally stopping wary fighter. So yeah, definitely below that. Again, beating armors is good, but it's going to be outclassed by Sky Malgi. I want to give it some points just because Sky Malgi is going to be a bit hard to get as a 5-star seasonal weapon. But it's not going to be all that good. We'll leave this here at the very bottom of B. Like it has its use. Even if that use is just, I don't have any Sky Malgis for my dagger units. Next up, we have Marissa with Flashing Carrot, I believe it's called. Flashing Carrot. So what these do, they're what I call the reverse bond weapons. If the foe has 100% HP, you get all stats +2. It's not very good. +2, it exists. It's a nice bonus. It's not the end of the world, and it only works if the enemy has 100% HP. Which, they will a lot of the time, but I don't know. There's a lot of other skills you'd rather have instead. So we'll put that... yeah, better than the owl. No, because the owl can get the +2 on enemy phase pretty easily. This one gets it on player phase pretty easily. Yeah, about the owl. Maybe a bit worse. Now, we have Bridal Tanith. So Bridal Tanith has Swift Sparrow. I've decided to combine these with all of the sort of blow skills. So we have, with Swift Sparrow, Bridal Sigrun with the sword, Bridal Tanith here with the lance. We have Bridal Louise with a bow, and Bridal Pent with a blue tone. In addition to that, we also have some summer units. So we have Summer Cordelia with a lance, and what this does is it increases all your stats by +2. And then we also have Inns with a axe, and we have Noir with a bow. So blow skills are useful because they're going to be on the offense a lot. And +4 attack, +4 speed aren't bad stats. They're better than +2 to everything. They're good. They're definitely going in the useful tier, just because these stats are going to be nice, and they're always going to be reliable. So we'll put that, better than Pala. They're more reliable than Heart's Blade. Yeah, let's put them, around where Brytolinion is. The Swashy Bucket is there too. I think that's for a lot. I think that makes sense. Definitely worse than Blar Serpent, just because that extra defense can really help you survive multiple rounds of combat. But I think that's suitable. Now we have Ilgar with her Shoreline Rake, which is an axe that increases your attack and defense if you have a bonus. We have a sword as well from Summer Hellbindi, and we have a dagger and a tome from Gunthra and Leovatane respectively, but they increase resistance, not defense. These are all pretty good. Attack and defense +4 is solid, and it's really easy to get. You just need any bonus at all. So the problem is it is outclassed by some later skills in the S tier that'll put on, but it's definitely B tier. Very reliable, very good. Let's put that, around here. Just because it's very reliable, very easy to use. Next up, we have Lara Kell with Fury. Other units have Fury as well. So we have Lara Kell, we have with this green tome, we have Ilyana with a blue tome, we have Dosma with a dagger, and we have Rolf with a bow. So all stats +3 is good, and losing 6 health after combat can also be good. If you want to use, say, Wings of Mercy strats, Escape Route strats, Dancer strats, it's not bad, and it can be really useful in a lot of different situations. So it's definitely going to go in B tier. You often need to build your entire team around this if you want to use it to its best extent, because if you are going to use it, you're going to want to abuse the fact you do go on low HP, either with Vantage or Desperation or Wings of Mercy, because other skills are going to give you better stats. But it has its use. So it's a bit similar to Ryoma and its curtains in that regard. Unlike the others, though, +3 to all stats really isn't something to shy away from. It is certainly good. Next up, we have Nina. Auto S tier. Okay, so not really. So what this one does is it lets you basically heal 5 HP, whenever you light a hit. So you have a blue tome from Nina, you have a dagger from Jafar, and you have a sword from Zafil. And I think that these are underrated. They aren't S tier, that's a bit of a joke, but they are very, very good. Because effectively, healing is in its own way speed tanking, I want to say. Because if you think about it, every hit you do, you heal 5 HP. If you double the enemy, you heal 10 HP. Effectively, this means that if you double the enemy, you have defense res plus 10. It's a way to increase your defenses with your speed. And yeah, you can overheal if they don't damage you, or you can heal by attacking the enemy. Healing is speed tanking. So I think this easily puts it in A or B tier. Low A, high B. We'll put this in A. Because maybe that is just some Nino bias, but it's good. Being able to heal up counts, I think. Counts for something. So yeah. Yeah, probably better than Geishan, but still pretty good. Now, we have air, nears air with sabotage. So sabotage, what it does is if your resistance is lower than, if the enemy's resistance is lower than yours, -3, and they're adjacent to other enemies, they lose a stat. So air's bow decreases their decreases their attack and speed by 5. And you have, Ares' dagger reduces their attack and speed by 5, and Anna's bow reduces their defense and res by 5. They're both pretty good. Air has a nice niche in that Tethys exists. So Tethys is a dancer with high res, automatically a support unit because it's a dancer. High res means that Tamari is going to be incredibly useful. So that alone basically makes me want to put it, really high up as a support weapon. Probably better than Geishan just because it affects multiple units and affects speed as well, even if the attack drop isn't as high. Yeah. Middle A tier, I guess. So around here. Around here makes sense, I think. Now next we have Blar Raven with the Silver Gauntlet, and also Blar Raven with the Fiddlesticks Bow. So what they do is with Blar Raven gives distant guard, which increases defense and res of allies within 2 spaces if you get hit by a ranged unit. And Nephene's version, the bow, does the same thing if they attack from close range. It's not a bad support skill. Being able to increases everyone's defenses by 4 isn't bad if you can control it. So we're going to put that in this sort of B or C. Low B, high C. As a support skill, I think it counts for something. So we're going to put that in, probably near the joint tones. I know that I said that Corinne has defense and res +2, and that's bad. This one is 4, but it only works in some situations. Generally, you're able to control the situations in such a way that, you're going to focus on range units or you're going to focus on close units. Having the +2 everything doesn't take into account that, you're a player and you're able to actually at least have some control over the situation. Now, next we have the Flame Emperor with Guard Axe and all these other skills that inflict guard, grant you guard. So these include a lance, which is the Guard Lance, 2 axes, the Guard Axe and the Hackle Lantern, both of which are Grail weapons. We have a bow from Naos, and we have a dagger from Kagura. Guard is good. It's a nice defensive and offensive weapon. You know, you can stop the enemy from healing up. You can stop them from killing you. So it's useful. It's not game breaking. There are other skills that inflict guard. There are other weapons that inflict guard effect, but it's good if you're trying to be bulky. I think this counts into B tier. It has its use. It's not going to break the game, but it has its use. So we'll put that in the middle-ish. Yeah. Yeah, let's say better than Hinoka. Yeah, I'd say Blar Raven is better for attacking in general. You know, that constant +6 is good. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So, next up is Spring Bartre, however it's pronounced. He has the Carrot Cudgel, which is in what I'd call the Steadfast family, which includes the Steadfast Lance, which Benny has, the Gilt Fork, which Spring Narshan has, the Steadfast Axe, which Dedu has, so we have a sword, a lance, and an axe, and also the Pale Breath, which Halloween Ina has. And what this does is it grants you, if you're within 2 spaces of an ally, so basically all the time, you get +5 attack, +5 defense, and you neutralize your penalties. This is a lot of effects. This is a lot of really good things. You have really good stats that are really easy to get, and you neutralize penalties, which makes it really, really useful for attacking if you're in enemy phase. So I think we have a first S rank. I think that it's incredibly useful for tanking, and you do good damage. It's not the best, but it is among the best. S rank. Next up, we have the Big Catch Bow from Summer Walt, alongside the Petal Parasol, which is a sword from Summer Fiora, and the Scallop Blade, which is a dagger from Summer Ursula. So what this does is if a penalty is active on a foe, you get attack and speed +5. This is rather reliable, being able to make sure a enemy has some penalty, usually pretty straightforward. You have your smokes, you have your sabotages, stuff like that. So I think it counts in B tier easily. Attack and speed +5 are solid stats. So yeah, I think it's definitely better than the Sparrow. Well, yeah, better than Sparrow, because you can use it on enemy phase as well, and because it, again, very, very reliable, and has higher stats. As for how much better, I think that's pretty useful. They're very similar, +4, +5. It's not a huge difference, and they are both pretty reliable. But yeah, I think that's about where it should go. Next up, we have Midori with the Spendthrift of her. So, on the downside, you basically reset your special counter after every combat. That's the bad thing. The good thing is that you get +7 damage, and the enemy gets -7 damage. That is a 14 damage shift, which is huge. And, you know, it doesn't just work for defense, it works for resistance as well. This is crazy. +14 damage difference is going to go a long way. Easy S rank. The special cooldown change is annoying, but you can avoid it, you know, with something like using a Noontime with Special Fighter or Glimmer or something like that. So yeah, you can still use the specials. I think that it counts as easy S tier. Probably better than the Spring Bartre with Steadfast X. It only counts for bows, but when it works really, really well. Now we have the Candy Cane, which is a lance from Winter Hilda, and the Reindeer Bow, which is a bow from Winter Felix. So what these do is if you're within 2 spaces of an ally, so again, all the time, you grant attack and defense +5, just like the Steadfast family. And then what this will let you do is, unlike those, it also inflicts special cooldown charge -1 on the enemy per attack. So not only do you get attack and defense +5, you also have guard. This is really good. This is really, really good. And so again, this is easy S tier. I'd say it's probably better than Spendthrift, just because Spendthrift is, okay, so in general I'd say it's better than Spendthrift, just because it doesn't have the penalty and because you have guard. Ironically, I think that these two could swap their prefs in it and work really, really well. Just because, you know, Felix is already an armor unit, which means he has so many ways to accelerate special cooldown and thus use specials with Spendthrift Bow, and also to make the guard effect that Reindeer Bow has pretty pointless, whereas Midori has the opposite. So my Felix has Spendthrift Bow, and if I built a Midori, I'm not sure. Maybe I might move it off Spendthrift Bow to the Reindeer Bow or something else. So in general, Reindeer Bow is probably better, and as is the lance that Hilda has. But Spendthrift Bow is very good as well. Now we have the ninja weapons. So the ninja axe, lance, and sword from that banner. They're basically more offensive versions of the brave weapons. So what these do is they have 1 more point of attack than the brave weapons, and they also grant 4 speed instead of losing 5 speed. So that's +1 attack +9 speed, and you lose 4 defensive resistance. So they're more offensive brave weapons. In general, just being more min-maxed, I'd say they're definitely better than the brave weapons. And honestly, that probably puts it ahead of the sweep weapons when you can use them. Unfortunately, there's no super brave bow. That would probably be pretty broken. Yeah, we could put them above the cleaner as well. Maybe I rated the cleaner a bit too high. I think maybe that's fair where it stands. I think it's a bit hard. Like within the tiers, they're all very balanced just because there are so many weapons. Like I think that between the tiers there's a very clear difference. Like the ninja weapons are far better than, say, Blar Serpent. But Blar Serpent and Guard, yeah, not so much of a difference. But anyways, next up we have Flora Guide, which has a rain effect. So enemies within 2 spaces lose speed and res. In the case of Flora Guide, we also have a bow, which grants, which inflicts speed and defense -5. Well, we have 2 bows. We have the Reindeer Bow. There's a Xenoblade joke to be made here, and we also have the Coral Bow from Summer Joshua. S tier. Not only is it really good for the user, you know, +5 damage, much easier doubles. It's also good for every member of your team. So yeah, I think this is good. Oh wow, so 3 bows in a row. But yeah, and here we have Daras with another S rank weapon, I think. So what Daras and his Dex Rubber does is it, if you are alone, if you're not adjacent to an ally, you inflict attack and defense -5, and you also neutralize the foe's bonuses. So the conditions are going to be harder. So this is what I call the Unbound tree. So it includes the Unbound Blade from Anand. You have the Flowing Lance from Geese. You have the Dex Rower, which is an axe, from Daras. You have a bow, the Helm Bow from Brigid, and you have the Black Fire Breath from Degensy. So this set, the Unbound tree, is very similar to the Steadfast tree. The Unbound has a sword, lance, axe, bow, and dragon breath, whereas the Steadfast tree has sword, lance, axe, and dragon, but not a bow. Well, I guess for the bow you're going to think about the other three as well. But if you're thinking about a sword, lance, axe, and dragon breath, it's important to note that the Steadfast tree is easier to obtain. So for the Steadfast tree, you need to be within 2 spaces of an ally. Very easy. For the Unbound tree, which is Daras, you need to be standing alone, so you can't be near anyone. However, under the conditions that it's activating, I think that this, the Unbound tree, is better. So they both give you stats. We'll ignore the stats just because they're going to be the same. But this one nullifies enemy bonuses, and enemy bonuses are probably going to stack high in a lot of PvP content, whereas you probably aren't. You have other ways to take control of penalties, like Harsh Command, or Dancer, or just waiting. So yeah, I think that this definitely goes above the other. Maybe I rated Flora Guy too high. It's good, but it's probably not that good. We'll put them both above the Rhinestones. They're good, but yeah. Anyways, next up we have the Spirited Spear from Gatri, which also includes some seasonal weapons. So the Pledged Blade, which is a sword, and the Huge Fan, which is an axe. So these are, again, another S tier, I think. What they do is that they grant attack and defense if you have a bonus. So just like the Sandford Spade that we had over here. But in addition to that, you also get cooldown acceleration when you get attacked. So yes, you can get off faster noontines or glimmers and stuff like that. So easy S tier. As for where exactly it goes, so unlike these two, these two have a lot to deal with how an enemy acts with bonuses and penalties. This one just doesn't. This one just straight up gives you a really good bonus. You can noontime every single hit. It's really, really good. Definitely better than those. How does it compare to these? I'll probably have to come to the end and rearrange this. Honestly, I think this might be better than... These three might all be better than Midori. Well, +7, -7 is good. And then the Reindeer Bow. Sorry. The Reindeer Bow. This one has the guard effect. So I guess these two are very comparable. So this one increases your cooldown if you have a bonus, and this one decreases their cooldown. Very comparable. I guess it's specifically if you're dealing with a lance. Wow, they basically all have lances. Yeah. Honestly, all 60 of these are relatively interchangeable. I guess that's why it's S tier. Next up, we have Ethylene. And Ethylene has the Courtly Van, which grants attack and speed +5 on initiation, and also neutralizes effects that prevents units' follow-up attacks during combat. So it's basically a superpowered Swift Sparrow that also stops Wary Fighter or something from existing. So, yeah, it's good. It's good. Objectively, it's just going to be better than the Lofty Blossoms. And attack and speed +5 on initiation is good. It's a lot of stats. Mollifying Wary Fighter And the like isn't the most useful though. So it's only going to be in B rank, but as for where, we'll plant it, say, around here. This tier is pretty crowded, but I guess that's what it gets for being in the middle. Next up, we have Eldigan. And Eldigan's pref is the Courtly Candle, which is a lance. We also have Quan with a bow, and Lachesis, or however it's pronounced, with a dagger. And what they do at the start of combat is if the unit's HP is above 50%, you grant a stat, attack and defense, or resistance if you're a dagger. And it also reduces the foe's first attack by 50% if they can make a follow-up. So the stats are good. The stats are also pretty reliable, being about 8% really easy. And being able to half damage from the first turn is also pretty good. Really, really good defense. A really, really good defensive weapon. So that's between B and A. The stats are good, and the defensive ability is really, really good. I think this is fair. Better than the healing. Probably not better than how good the sabotage is for support. I think that's fair. Next up, we have Veronica with the blooms. So there are 3 blooms, 1 for each of the colors: Unity blooms, Pact blooms, and Amberly blooms. Don't confuse these with Blar blooms, which is already on, which is the one that combines with the Valentine's Icon Sword. So there's 1 grand bond. This one has a whole lot of effects. So if you're within 2 spaces of an ally, which again is always going to happen, you inflict attack and res -5 on a foe, and you heal 4 damage per hit. So it's basically what Nino over here has. Only heals 4 instead of 5. Needs some special conditions, but then swings damage by 10, which is crazy. Easy S tier. Easy S tier. Where exactly it goes, well, this gives you more attacking ability. This lets you heal. It's probably a midpoint to compare to the melee ones, just because they have no common weapons. It's good for Omni tanks, and my Nino has Pact blooms, not Flora guides, so put that there. Next up, we have Sale. So Sale has the springy axe. We also have a springy lance and a springy bow from Minerva and Inigo respectively. And what they do is, if the foe's HP is above 75%, you get attack and speed +5, and you neutralize the penalties. This is good. So generally, you might notice so far that a lot of the S ranks give you really, really good stats under really, really easy conditions, and they also do something else to sort of just push it into that S rank. I think that in this case, this is definitely one of those situations. A foe is going to be above 75% a lot of the time. If they aren't, they're going to die easily. Attack and speed +5 is good. And neutralizing your penalties is also really, really good. So, yeah. Probably not as good as... Probably at the bottom. The healing is really, really important. The ally support is really, really good. The speed isn't as useful as, the sheer bulk that a lot of these these inheritables have, but it's still good. Next, we have Urk with the Rotter Fox. So we have a Rotter Fox, a Blar Fox, a Grand Fox, and most recently, in fact, probably not yet, we're going to get a Axe Fox, a Fats. It's going to be called the Helmsman's Axe, which Lithis will have. And on initiation, the enemy gets attack, speed, death, and res -4. So it's going to be better than the blow skills. How much better? Yeah, I'm not quite sure. It's so my Urk still has Rudderfox. I'm probably going to change it eventually, but again, it's reliable. It gives you bulk in addition to everything else. An 8 damage swing is nice, but yeah, it's really all it does. I guess it can go in the bottom of A tier. Maybe that's some bias, but the sheer amount of stats it gives you is good. I think counts for something. Next, we have Tatiana, and everything else that has the rabbit skills. So there are a few here. We have the Blar Rabbit from Tatiana and the Rotor Rabbit from Aret. We also have some summer inheritables, which includes another red tome from Summer Lorange, Summer Lorenz, the Conch Bouquet. And we also have the green tome, the Melon Float from Summer Sylvain. And we have a Dagger, the Hidden Thorn from Summer Dorothea. So what these do is that during your first combat in either phase, you get attack and res +5 and restore 7 HP after combat. I think this is underrated. I think this skill is very, very good. Because the healing is, 7 points of healing after combat. It's significant. It's not going to break everything, but it's significant. 5 attack is really, really good. And the condition is also really, really good. You can only really attack once, unless you have Dance as support. But assuming you don't have Dance as support, you're going to activate that on player phase all the time, and you'll activate it on some enemy phases. You aren't going to tank like crazy like you can with other ones, like, Pact Blooms, but you can take a hit. I think that it's not quite S tier, but it's definitely really, really good. Possibly in the top of A. Yeah, I think so. The healing and the stats being relatively easy to accomplish, it counts for something. Next up, we have Fernand. And so Fernand has sturdy impact on his lance. We also have Conrad with a sword and Faye with a bow. And what they do is on initiation, you get attack and defense +4, and your opponent can't land a follow-up attack. So, mini sturdy impact. And sturdy impact is a good skill. Attack and defense +4 is good. It's in a bit of a weird situation because I'm going to say that this is going to be B tier because defense is, an enemy phase stat. Having defense on player phase is going to be super useful. So it's not going to be too high up, but it's good. It's Gordon, sure, yeah. All of its stats are good. It's more Ilgar is more reliable. I don't want to punish it too bad for being outclassed by later weapons. Yeah, I think this is fair. Nullifying follow-up attacks is good. Now, we have Leonie with the Sunflower Bow. We have an axe from Caspar, and we have a red tome from Mercedes. And what these do is if the foe's HP is greater than 75%, you get +5 to a stat, either defense or resistance, and then you inflict that same penalty on the opponent And also, if they have any bonuses, they get a penalty and you get a bonus. Effectively, if you have up to 75%, you steal 5 of a stat, and you also steal whatever bonuses they have. This makes for a pretty decent swing if you're fighting the enemy with the same damage type as you. You know, if you're fighting a physical enemy, you're going to have a 10 damage swing. If you're fighting a physical enemy with a Leonie, you're going to have a 10 damage swing. And it'll be more significant if they have a bonus. If they have, say, plus 5 defense, you're going to have a huge 20 damage swing, which is going to completely change the battle. But it's unreliable. You need the enemy to have the same damage type as you. You need the enemy to be about 75%. And you also need the enemy to actually have a bonus to make the most use, which you generally don't want them to have. So, yeah, it's going in A rank. It's good. It's just not that good. Better than Brave. Yeah, I think Fire Shape is still better. But, yeah, I think that's suitable. Anyways, next up, we have Norn. So this is a pretty interesting situation because we have 2 lances that have slightly different effects. So Norn has the Shell Point Lance. What it does is if you have an ally within 3 spaces, you get defense plus 6, and also you get defense plus 6 as a visible buff. Yeah, visible buff. And you also grant attack and defense plus 5 to the unit during combat. Augma has a very similar lance, except instead of granting you defense plus 6, you get attack plus 6. So it's better. This is good. The attack plus 5 during combat is nice, and it's a very, very easy situation to obtain. And the attack and defense plus 6 is also solid. The sort of problem is that you're probably going to have those stats boosted by somewhere else already. So it's not the best sort of thing. I guess it means that you could give those units the attack boost to boost allies, but I think that sort of pushes it out of being S rank. It's in A rank. I guess it's a bit like the rabbit skills, where it's good. It does everything right, but it just needs a bit more of a push to actually go into S. Now, we have the blade skills. Drawn Blade, Blar Blade, and Rudder Blade, which increase your damage by how many bonuses you have, but on the flip side, it reduces your special cooldown. These also have, for some reason, 1 more damage than every other inheritable weapon of their type. So that's pretty nice too. These weapons are really, really good. Easy A tier. They were good. They were broken when the game first started. And all the other weapons exist now. They're still really, really good. Better than Fox's still probably. Like under also, I guess it's a bit like its Turdance, where you do need a team based around it. Maybe I'm a bit too biased by putting it too high above its Turdance and stuff. So maybe you should just go around here. Like maybe this is the sort of baseline. Like a lot of units who did get perfs, like, for example, flying, if you put them in a dedicated team, Drawn Blade was better than Giga Excalibur. And then Giga Excalibur got refined. But the point is that a lot of the time you did want these Inheritables over whatever perf you already had, which shows how useful and strong they are. Now, next up, we have the silver weapons. So here we have Tiki with Flame Tongue, and we have So every single weapon has a base upgrade, which has no effect, but it has 2 higher might than every other weapon. D tier. So, yeah, no effect. You need at least something to make your weapon good. Again, this is what I guess I mean when I say it's not completely useless. Like, there are definitely some uses where that unconditional +2 damage is going to be useful. I believe that early on in the game's life, I fed Excalibur to my Nino so that she could, like, solo a Grand Hero battle. You know, very niche, but it had its use. But you know, it's not useful most of the time. Next up, we have Severa with Armor Slayer. So this is the tier. This is the unupgraded version of the armor slaying skill. It's supposed to be upgraded version, which we have here. Useless. Yes, so when you upgrade them, they get good, but the armor slayer as it is useless. Here, now we have Dark Breath. So these are the sort of smoke skills, and there are 3 of them, which are all slightly different, but I'm going to pair them together. So Dark Breath. So all of these give an attack and speed penalty to the unit you hit, as well as units within 2 spaces around it. So Dark Breath, it gives you -7. You have the Dagger, which is the Smoke Dagger, nice name, which gives you -6. And you also have Clarice's Bow, which gives you -5. These aren't terrible supports. The problem is that you sort of need to attack with it. Like, it's not passive like stuff like the joint homes or the joint drives are, where just by existing you grant a benefit to your ally. But if you are going to go in combat, you are going to fight something, but it's not the best. So I think that this either high C or low B. Like, it has its use. Don't get me wrong. It's just not going to do all that much, really. Yeah, it's probably better than this bond. Yeah, I think this is where it sort of goes. Like, if you're going to do support, you have better support weapons. If you're going to tank, if you're going to fight, there are better fighting weapons. So it's just mediocre with both of them. So yeah. Now we have Kagura, which has the Poison Dagger, which gives you effectiveness against infantry units. You also have Sakura with a Kitty Paddle, which gives you effectiveness against magic units. Effectiveness against such common unit types is good. The only problem is that they have such low attack that their usefulness is limited nowadays. But they're good. If only they had a bit more might, which you can get through other methods, but yeah, it just means that it's probably not going to go in A rank. Yeah, it's probably not good. It's not as good as Blade. So we'll leave it in B rank. We'll put it with, yeah, probably around the center-ish. Or Guard. Splashy Bucket. Yeah. Effective against infantry better than effectiveness versus dragons. So I think that makes sense. Next up, Setsuna. So Setsuna's bow grants Dagger Breaker. Colorless Dagger Breaker. Very niche. Very niche. There aren't really many good dagger units. It's something. Maybe it should go at the top of D, but it's incredibly useless. So the dagger niche promotes into the guard bow when you refine it. So you can't actually refine it normally. It just refines into the guard bow, into the serpent skills. So you lose out in stats as well. So really low stats, niche skill. Yeah. But it's something. It has something, just never going to be useful. Ray has the wolf tome, so they're effective against cavalry, but this is the pre-evolved form, so yeah. Effective against armors is better than effective against cavalry, so unfortunately, as much as I love Ray, gonna go at the bottom. And here we have the killing weapons. Another one that's completely useless because this promotes to the slaying weapons. So that'll go there. Yeah, probably better than effective against horses, just because horses don't really have the stats to bother about so much, but yeah, it's something. Now here we have Blar Raven, perhaps the skill that IS overrates the most. It's good though, so it grants you effectiveness against colorless enemies. So it's useful. I guess it's a bit like the gem weapons in that regard, which I haven't talked about yet. We can talk about them both at the same time, because effectively what they do is they make you good against a specific type of unit, a specific color of unit, and they're really good budget options if you don't want to invest too heavily in a unit, but they aren't going to completely change how you fight. They're basically just a giant multiplier. So we'll put that in this tier. You know, it's useful, but it's not going to completely break things. So where exactly? Yeah, worse than guard. Probably worse than blow or the joint hone. Oh yeah, I think this is good. Better than the distant guard. And of these two, I'd say triangle attack is better than Blar Raven, just because it has a higher multiplier and useful for budget units. Here, now, we have Tiki, which has lightning breath alongside Noe, which lets you counterattack regardless of range, but it has slightly lower attack, and it has a lower cooldown, just like Run Blade. Despite that, this encounter is really, really good. So that's definitely an easy A. Basically every dragon early in the game's life wanted lightning breath. So yeah. Better than Nina. Better than Run Blade, I mean. Better than Rodder Fox, yeah. Yeah, I think this is a good spot. Like, it's definitely a really good perf, and it definitely has a really good niche. So we'll leave that there. Now we have, I touched upon this before. We have Light Breath, which is a bit like Dark Breath. So Dark Breath penalizes enemy units. Light Breath gives bonus to your units, but like Dark Breath, you need to attack. This makes it really weird because, you know, it has a lot of the same issues that Dark Breath has. So I'm going to put it right next to it. Where if you're going to be supporting, you probably don't want to attack. Like, if you give it to Nidian, why would your Nidian try and attack when she could just dance your ally? And even if you're trying to build a team around it, like early on I tried to build a Grunblade Nino team with a Light Breath Nidian or Light Breath Fae or something, and it just doesn't work. Doesn't work because you'd rather your support actually supporting and not doing a little tiny 2 damage on an enemy. So yeah, it's not very good. Here we have Blue Egg. So this is the first half of Mystic Boost, where after combat you heal 4 damage. So you have Blue Egg, Green Egg, and what's the last one? Carrot Lance from Xander. And healing 4 damage after combat is nice, so it's something, but, you know, just 4 damage. And unlike, you know, Tannin Bit, which heals you after every hit, just heals once. So yeah, it definitely goes into generally outclassed category. Yeah, I think that's about where it should go. It should go above that. No, it should go below that. Healing 4 is not as good as dealing 7 damage. Okay, So now we have this. We have Tiki's push skill. So what Tiki has with her axe, what some Robin has with her lance, what Gaius has with a bow, and what Frederick has with a dagger, is if you are on 100% HP, you get all stats +2, and then you take 2 damage, I believe it is. Yep, 2 damage. All stats +2 isn't great, and it's going to be used for only 1 combat. Yeah, so one of the worst. Yeah, put it above Corinne. Yeah, and I think this is fair. If it's still only going to be used once, and all it'll do is grant you all stats +2, it's not really going to do much. Now we have Burkwood. So Burkwood represents a whole huge group of skills, the stat skills, where on enemy's phase you get a stat or many stats. There are actually 6 lances that have stances. You have 2 that give res +7, you have 2 that give defense +7, you get 1 that gives attack and defense +4, and you get 1 that gives all stats +2. Oh yeah, and you also get 1 that's attack +7. So yeah, there are a lot of different ones of them, and I think that they're useful. So you know, they're a bit like the blow skills, very similar, but you have a larger variety of stats, and they're going to be useful in enemy phase as opposed to player phase. Yeah, I guess we can put them right next to one another. They're basically the same thing, just in different situations. Okay, so now we have Matilda bringing forth the upgraded anti-cavalry weapons. So one could say that they are just like the anti-armor weapons, which Silas represents, but they are cavalry instead of armors. And cavalry tend to have much lower stats than armors, and don't really stat ball you as much as a armor would. Like, you know, Reinhardt is good. Reinhardt will slay your team, but it's not because he has the bonuses so much. So honestly, it's far, far worse than armors. Honestly, it's probably going to go to like C tier. Like it's good. It has its use, but removing bonuses from cavalry aren't going to make a difference too much at the time. Probably at the top of a C, but definitely still a C. Next up, we have Dancer Inigo. We also so what these do is they give Breath of Life. If you attack, you heal adjacent units by 7. It's not too useful. Same issue as Light Breath and Dark Breath, except healing 7 isn't going to be as useful as, you know, dropping their stats for an entire turn. So yeah, I think this goes into C. Like, this is strictly worse than these two, and if these two are the bottom of B, it's going to go down here. Do you think self-healing or healing allies is better? Healing allies is going to be better. Yeah, I think this is good. It has fun uses in, you know, you can make a healer Nino if you want, but it's not practical. Now, we have the slaying weapons, the upgraded killing weapons that reduce your skill cooldown by 1. This sits between B and A, I'd say. This might be a bit controversial. I think that a lot of the wikis think that slaying weapons should be, you know, be S or A, but I don't think they're that good. Sure, you can use Soul instead of Noontime, or you can boost your damage normally by 10. Yeah, I'm not sure it's that useful. I guess it's high B tier, probably still better than Blar Serpent. Oh, is it? No, I don't think so. Better than Guard Axe for sure. Yeah, I guess it's around here. Yeah, we put it there. Honestly, I've forgotten what Ethylene did. What does Ethylene do? Oh yeah, this one was the super blow. So it grants attack and speed +5 and initializes wary fighter, which is pretty good. Yeah, we'll put it there. I think this is suitable. Like, it's definitely a good skill, and it's good for budget builds. But if you're going to fully invest in the unit, you probably aren't going to give it a slaying weapon. Now, we have Legion. So Legion's axe gives Panic Smoke. There are a few others that give Panic Smoke as well. The bow from Halloween Jacob, and the green tome from Halloween Henry. This is fine. It's nice support, but again, similar issues to these guys, where you want to support the enemy. You don't inflict panic during the combats. You're going to still need to fight someone who's super powerful. I think Legion's Perf Axe is much better in that regard, but yeah, it's going to sit between B and C, just because you don't really want to have to fight someone who's super powered, and if you can't fight them, you're probably better off not using the axe. Actually, I'm talking myself out of putting him closer to B. It's honestly not that great, but I guess if you're organizing your team properly, you can support. Yeah, still a C for sure, just perhaps not too high. Yeah, I'll put them here. Now, near the end, we have Chris. So Chris with the Plegian weapons. So what these do is that if you are alone, you grant attack and defense +5. Sorry, your enemy gets attack and defense +5, or attack and res +5 if you're using the green tome version. And in addition to that, if they have a penalty, any penalty is doubled. So this is super easy to obtain. Being solo isn't the hardest condition. That's by default a 10 damage swing, and every penalty has its effect doubled. I think that's an easy S rank. Probably better than this. Probably better than these guys. I'm not sure if it's better than this sort of bulky boy setup we've got here. Bulky boy and Midori setup. I'm not sure how I feel about Felix being on top. But yeah, these are good. Yeah, they're all of these are very similar, very interchangeable. But we'll leave it there for now. We'll think about it towards the end. And finally, we have Zealot, and Zealot gives joint drive attack. So you get plus attack and defense +4. Also, every ally around you gets the exact same benefit. Yeah, so I think this is definitely an S rank still. Easy condition, very good combat effect, and you boost your allies as well. But again, but unlike the others, attack and defense isn't going to be as useful because you can't really control whether they'll be magic or physical so much. But the support is good. The support is definitely really good. So yeah, I guess it'll stay in A. It'll stay in A, and it'll be with the others. And okay, so how much of this should I change? So bottom tier. Think about this. We have all of these that basically. So 1, 2, 3, and then Setsuna. These ones get refined into another weapon. So they are completely outclassed by their upgraded forms. And this last one, Flame Tongue, the silver weapons are superseded by basically everything else. Next tier up, we have the ones that are generally outclassed. So a weak drive, yep. Push, yeah, pretty bad. Desperation, yep. The reverse push, yep. Owl, yep, pretty bad. Casablanca, yep. Bodao, Blue, Egg, minor healing, yep. Healing allies, yeah. A lot of these are very, very situational. Panic, maybe this one should go higher. Panic Smoke is good, but again, the problem is you need to fight units on your own, so yeah. Defend, attack +7 conditionally. 2 attack +7 conditionally, yeah. Yeah, there's probably a fine line between like Inigo and the rest of these 5. Maybe we can move these 5 up to B. Or maybe we can move these down. Actually, yeah, I might do that. Like these 5 definitely do good things. But they're outclassed, but they're useful. Well, actually no. We'll put them back where they are. Like, I wouldn't. There's no situation where I'd be all. Well, okay, this one can be there actually. But yeah, there's no situation where I'd be all. Oh. Actually, yeah, no, we'll put them there. Okay, yeah. These ones are supposed to be useful, and yeah, having +7 damage is useful. Sure, they're outclassed, but they do something. Parlor has a weird effect. It was... oh yeah, armor effectiveness and weird anti-wary fighter. Armor effectiveness is good. So yeah, I think that's fair. So this one was the bond skill. Bond +3. This one might be a bit too high. Bond +3 is... it's a lot of stats. It's just, especially for a melee unit, you know, you're not going to be very reliable. Actually, no, I think that's fine where it is. Yeah. We have the ones that are ally support but need a fight. Like, they're good when they work. They're just hard to get working. But support is support. And then we have Renea, which has the guard. Yeah, definitely better than these ones because you don't need to do anything. These 2 are good against certain colors. Yep. Giant Hone. Yep, really good. So that's okay. There definitely feels like there's a barrier between, say... maybe I should make a new tier with these 3, these 9. There's probably like a solid line between these 2, but it's not so distinct. But yeah, stance, blows, Fury's up there. Walt was... ah yes, but you get attack and speed +5 with their penalty. So dragon effectiveness plus mystic boost, yep. Weapon effectiveness, yep. Guard, yep. Slaying, yep, that's good. This one was also really good, but I also forget what it does. Really weird specific dagger stuff. Blar Serpent, maybe this is overrated. Yeah, I think it's a bit overrated. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. Blow, sturdy impact. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, and these 2 are specific ability ally support. So is this super powered? I'm not a bit cagey with it being so high above this, but the defense is good. Like, having that extra 4 defense is definitely something. Distant counter, chill, healing, all that tankiness, sabotage, armors, brave, a lot of effectiveness and hardy bearing. Yeah, I think that's fair. Maybe these 2 are a bit too high. Yeah, I think sabotage beats those. This tankiness is good too. Yeah, we'll move these 2 a bit lower. Yeah, I think that's fair. Stealing stats, fire sweep is to be overrated. So this one just lets you nuke things under conditions. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. The support's really important. Ninjas. And then, yeah, these ones are honorary S tiers where they do good things. They're just weak to other things. Now, the actual S tiers. Boost yourself and boost your allies. Go with that. Debuff your enemies completely. That's good too. Sale was neutralizing penalties and stats. Yep. Heal self. Plus debuff. Yep. Super debuff powers. Yep. I'm a bit cagey about Felix being on top, but Flowing Lance is good, so maybe that makes sense. Flowing Lance, Spirited Spear. Yeah, the top 6 are very interchangeable, but they're very, very good. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this. And yeah, I guess that's my tier list. Been recording for over an hour and a half. And yeah, hopefully this was fun and interesting. For what it's worth, I guess I've been trying to build my Leonie, so I guess I'll probably feed her one of my Felixes. Had to spend a whole lot of grails on that. Probably going to upgrade my Amelia to one of these guys as well. So you've got a lot of options. I guess it's good that you have a lot of different good ones, so you're probably going to at least have one of them for good fodder. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. It's getting very late. My throat's dying. I'm getting very tired. If you like this and you like other video game RPG analysis content, like and subscribe. I have a weird sort of meta analysis video coming up. I've scripted it, just need to record it. So yeah, thanks for watching if you made it this far. Bye.